Okay, now, so to the traceability subject, I hope I have made clear the crucial role of traceability as a driving factor in the vision. And next slide, please. Thank you. Yeah, so this is again displayed where you can find traces of traceability in our scenario story. Next slide, please. On the basis of the TOC, we can see that traceability works in many different places and thus has a strong influence on the entire system, as you can see by the filled boxes. And when established, it acts as an enabler with regard to many factors. Next slide, please. We therefore propose a subproject under the title IT Tools and Governance for Traceability. This highlights already two very important perspectives, because an IT tool alone does not provide a comprehensive solution. Rather, a governance context is also needed for the application of the tool. And both perspectives are the subject of the subproject. And so is, by the way, the traceability of the physical product, meaning the originally a rawhide, which then passes into different processing stages. Next slide, please. We have heard several times that there are strong interactions between traceability and normative impulses. With dynamic developments in product and environmental law, the demands on companies to be compliant are growing. To ensure their compliance, they must strengthen the control of supply chain processes. And for this purpose, IT-based traceability systems represent an innovative solution from a technical point of view. Here, suppliers along a product supply chain report, for example, which chemicals they have introduced into a material or used in a production step. This data can also be linked with supplementary information, for instance, related to social conditions at the facilities. And in this way, a so-called bill of materials is created parallel to the physical product. In fact, this approach is also not entirely unfamiliar to the leather industry. For over 20 years, suppliers to the automotive industry, at least, have been reporting on the chemicals contained in the materials used in vehicles, such as leather seats and fittings. Not only the regulated chemicals have to be reported. In order to develop its full potential, the aim of such a system should be a full material declaration of all chemicals contained in the material. Only this way, users can also ensure their compliance when new legal requirements for chemicals kick in. For example, in connection with the candidate list in REACH, which is extended every 6 months. Or consider the following scenario. As early as 2021, the aforementioned restriction of up to 1,000 sensitizing substances could come into force, which would then be applicable after a certain transition period. What does the leather industry do in such a situation? In the status quo, all supply chain processes would have to be reviewed retroactively to see whether these substances could play a role. So this means there are a lot of emails to be written. In the traceability scenario, on the other hand, supply chain actors can, so to speak, have at the push of a button many, if not all, of these substances displayed if they are contained in the product. Then targeted measures can be taken. And it is obvious that in this situation, all actors, and this expressly includes the suppliers, have less efforts than in the comparison scenario without traceability. One company cannot and should not implement such a thing on its own. Rather, an industry solution is needed to enable efficient reporting. This is the only way to avoid unnecessary additional burden for the suppliers. Rather, the principle applies that suppliers generate a data record once, for example, for a specific leather coating, and they can then report this data set to all their customers. Finally, the traceability of chemicals is also a basic requirement for the circular economy. If leather products are to be given a second life cycle in the form of reuse, upcycling, or even the processing of composite materials such as leather fiber, this is only possible if the material is legally marketable. This means the chemicals contained must be known. Please click once, Carmen. And yeah, EU politicians are quite aware of this. In the new circular economy package, for instance, the Commission undertakes to develop harmonized traceability standards together with industry. The Green Deal refers to an electronic product pass. This electronic product pass is intended to communicate product-related environmental data on energy consumption and use of chemicals, for example. Moreover, the current funding period in Horizon 2020 provides large numbers of money for related research topics. I'm now going to highlight some advantages of such a system, besides better ensuring compliance and enabling circular economies. For instance, through the reliable information of the system, companies can secure their green claims against professional and private customers. It also enhances product development and more specific demand. Further, the system allows for overall efficiency gains of chemicals management. And all these aspects, of course, can be linked to new or improved business models as well. Next slide, please. As Jonas has already said, our conceptions of the subprojects presented today are to be understood as drafts that we would like to develop further with you. Besides, I'm talking about disclaimers here. Besides, it should be noted that we are aware of overlaps of our traceability project with other projects, notably the UNEC project on enhancing transparency and traceability, among others in the footwear sector. We are thus in exchange with this project and with other projects. So in what follows, I will outline the main research questions of our traceability project, and many of those questions have already been at least partially clarified in our project or in comparable projects. So we start with the question, what information must be passed on along the leather chain? What information must be made available to other actors? And to answer this question, this is of course about negotiation processes. What are the minimum requirements? And what are the legitimate confidentiality interests? And here, of course, we also want to acknowledge small steps taken by smaller actors who will obviously not be in the position to switch to something like a full material declaration overnight. At the same time, we have to ask, where does the industry want to be in the medium or long term? What is the ambition? And both with respect to the supply chain communication B2B and also with respect to transparency vis-a-vis consumers or authorities. Then, which technologies are available or required to enable traceability along the leather supply chain? This refers to both hardware and software solutions. As mentioned earlier, in addition to IT, this also involves technologies for making the physical rawhides traceable throughout the entire process. And also I want to mention that usability of such solutions will be a key criterion, particularly with a view to the smaller actors who have not much experience with such applications. Please click once, Karen. And finally, which framework conditions support traceability along the leather supply chain? So this is the governance question, and as I said, this is one particular focus in our project. As mentioned, IT is only half of the story. In addition, a set of rules with clear reporting requirements is needed to ensure the quality of the data and thus the creation of trust in the system. So in this set of rules must not be dictated by the data requesters, but rather all actors must participate in this process so that incentives and obstacles can be taken into account sufficiently. And suppliers in particular are motivated to provide the data. With this, I would end here and like to hand over back to Karen.
The question, what is your target project location? Julian, do you want to answer this now?
Yes, with the answer that we cannot provide this answer yet. It depends on the exchange with the actors from the field who have to provide input. Where's the problem? Where do we have to get active to change the system? So actually, I would like to push this question back in your direction, and maybe you would like to name locations and regions that should be at the focus.